My name is Lucas, and I want to tell you a story about my older brother. His name is Derek, and as you may have realized, he was arrested recently, accused of stealing toilet paper. I know at first glance it may seem silly and ridiculous and difficult to believe, but my mom and I had exactly the same reaction. So that you get the gist of it, I will first tell you a little bit about our family. So stay tuned to the end to hear the whole story. My brother, my mom, and I have lived together for many years. We didn't really know our fathers. Yeah, we have different fathers, but the same mother. Her first husband, i.e. Derek's father, left her for someone else when my brother was about 1.5 years old. He doesn't remember him at all, and my dad died before I was born. Since then, my mom has not been seeing anybody. She has decided to devote her life completely to us and our work. We live sparsely, often in need, but we go to school and pay our rent steadily. Mom works 2 jobs and has no weekends off, and we really appreciate her work. Derek and I couldn't wait to get a job, even part-time, because it was awful to feel sorry for Mom. We made her sick a lot. She put on a lot of weight because of the stress and made her look so old, even though women her age don't look like that. We genuinely felt sorry for her, and when Derek turned 10, he even went to get money for the first time. I remember that day because I was sick. I had a high fever and didn't go to school. Stayed home and just laid down. My mom told me to take time off work to buy medicine, and I waited for her. Derek was with me all day. He didn't go to school either. He looked after me. My mom was away for several hours. My temperature kept rising, and then I got cramps. Because our family didn't have health insurance, medical care was very expensive, so our family tried to carry everything on their feet. And as they say, I couldn't because I was small. Anyway, when we finally waited for my mom, she arrived upset and crying, saying that she had someone steal the money from her from the tube station. She was supposed to use it to buy medicine for me. My mom was so upset. She came up to me and begged for my forgiveness. She was desperate, but it was totally fine. It was no big deal for me because I knew how much she wanted this for me. Then my brother got up from the floor and said that he would be right there. He went off somewhere. He was gone for about an hour. I was getting worse and felt even worse. And finally the door opened. It was raining heavily outside, and there was a wet Derek on our doorstep. He was soaked to the brim and handed Mom a bag of medicine for me. There was panic and fear in Mom's face, but she quickly gave me the medicine. I felt better almost instantly and fell asleep. Through my sleep, I remember my mom scolding my brother, asking about how he got that amount. But Derek just kept quiet. She shouted that she didn't want him stealing and associating himself with bad company or doing other more horrible illegal things. Derek was silent. Then he said that his little brother's life and health were more important than anything, and went off to his room. I'll never forget what he did. My brother took a risk for me, and by some miracle we got through it. Although, to be honest, we still don't know exactly what he did. Anyway, then he started looking for a job. Every place that took high school kids paid very low wages, and the work wasn't particularly nice. Derek would do anything to bring home something, and it didn't make things easier for Mom. She disapproved of what he had done, scolded him, said that he should study because he couldn't do otherwise. He did not want to listen to her. And then Derek did, getting suspended from school. And he was free for almost half a year. But he'd go back and sit in the same class he left, so he'd lose time. That did not stop him. He shared his decision with me and asked me not to tell Mom. I didn't give away the secrets, and neither he did mine. Now, my brother had more time to work and was disappearing more and more often. I still don't know what he was doing or what was on his mind, but there was more money. My mom was worried about him, asking for it, where it came from, but he wouldn't tell me or anybody. There were times when he would come home, when he's changed his clothes, and I would see his back, his arms all bruised. He could hardly straighten up. He would walk, and in his dreams he would moan in pain. I was frightened by his activity. What was he doing? Could he be involved with bad people? Could he be using drugs, selling drugs? Could he just be beating money out of someone, literally? Does he tell you anything at all? My mom asked me. I shook my head, not because I didn't want to be a rat, but I didn't actually know. However, my mom's thoughts really put me on the same page as her, and it was scary. One day, when Derek came home in the early hours in the morning, Mom was just finishing her night shift. I asked him where he was and what he was doing. Derek was so sleepy and tired that he could barely move his tongue. He mumbled something under his breath as he lay in his bed, but I couldn't understand the words, so I went over to him and started shaking my hand. I didn't understand, man. What did you say? I interjected. Apparently, my brother, sleepy or tired, opened his eyes abruptly, then closed immediately and said, I did everything. "The police won't find me," and snored. Those words sent shivers through my body. What could he have done? Then I took a closer look at his hands and noticed bits of bruising on his bones and something red. I noticed these droplets on his t-shirt and could barely stand on my feet. I didn't know what to do. I didn't feel like sleeping anymore, so I left the room and waited for Mom. As soon as she entered the apartment, she knew immediately that something had happened by looking at me. I showed her my brother, told her everything I knew, and then there was a knock on the door. I opened the door and the police were there. They burst into our house so quickly that we didn't even have time to think about it. It took them a couple of minutes to pull half-asleep Derek out, handcuff him, and take him out of the house. They put him in the police car. My mom and I stood there, watching. My mom cried bitterly. With the money we had saved, we hired a lawyer and went with him to the station. There, somehow my mother managed to squeeze out some private conversation with her son. He didn't want to talk, and then he said that he'd been charged with theft. What? Drugs? People? Money? Guns? My mom asked, and Derek replied, "Toilet paper." What? Mom interjected. I sat there shocked, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. And then suddenly I remembered abruptly that one time Derek and I had wandered into an unfamiliar place while walking around town. It was a private boarding house. A couple of kids ran out of that grounds. They looked miserable, looking at us greedily. Derek gave them everything we had. Our lunch, money. Then he gave them his watch. Then it turned out that the headmaster of the school made the children steal toilet paper from everywhere. They brought her several new rolls and reams, and she doesn't punish them. Turned out that the woman then hoarded all the toilet paper and sold it at a higher price. Why toilet paper? Because no one would go to the police for it. Apparently, Derek just became distant from the kids and stole so much paper for them and hid it near their orphanage, so the kids wouldn't risk themselves. Would it take from the warehouse he made and give it to her? The main thing was that she didn't hit him. My mom sighed and then asked how he got the bruises, abrasions, and blood on his clothes. And he said that he worked as a loader. He unloaded wagons almost all day. His nose was bleeding because of the pressure, and the bruises were caused by the injuries at work. Anyway, we managed to bail him out. My brother was forced to return the paper back to the shop's warehouse. But on the bright side, that boarding school was closed, and the woman there turned out to be wanted for fraud. The children were released. Their parents were found, which means that they weren't orphans after all. She just took them for hostage. And so my brother helped solve a case that had been dragging on for several years. How great. And once again, I was convinced that he was in fact the best brother. If you liked the video, then please comment, like, and subscribe.